book lovers, it is G-Swiz here, and I'm here today with my August TBR. Know how I'm gonna be able to compete against my reading life in July, so there's no point in it. I honestly cannot believe that in July I read 40 books, but that was due to me being sick and me having high adrenaline when it came to story consumption. Hoping that I still have somewhat of that adrenaline left because I don't want to be in a reading slump. At the moment, as I'm filming this video, I literally don't know what to pick up next, and so I'm hoping that this will be a guide for me, or maybe something might pop up after I finish filming this video. But what I do know is that I do want to prioritize some different kinds of books. I do have some anticipated releases I'm very much looking forward to reading. However, I'm very much open to trying new things as I'm currently trying to get into the reading groove for this month and really hope that at least if I don't get 40 books completed, which is an unrealistic goal, at least I will have some sort of motivation to just read some really awesome stories. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I'm gonna get straight into this TBR video and let you guys know what I plan to read this month. I didn't necessarily read too much manga in the month of July. However, I do kind of want to change that in August, and I do want to continue on with series such as The King's Beast and Mao. These two series I've really wanted to continue on reading. Mao I've only read the first chapter of, and who knows, maybe I might be past the first volume by the time this video goes up. I don't know. I have a few volumes on my shelf anyway, so I do want to get through this series. Also with The King's Beast, I have up to volume 6 on my shelf and I've only read volume 1. I didn't necessarily read much last month in terms of the manga side of things. I did continue on with Chainsaw Man, and I only read 1 volume of The King's Beast, and I read 1 chapter of Mao in this volume. So I want to continue on with these series and let you guys know how I go with them, because I do want to be able to recommend more manga series to you guys, especially what's new and upcoming. I've heard great things about these series, but I just really need to give them a chance myself. Hopefully August will be the month where I delve further into these series and see whether I recommend you guys any more manga beside the catalog of manga that I've already recommended here on my channel. And speaking of reading in different formats, I've also going to bring up a graphic novel series, also known as a webtoon series, that I look forward to continuing on with this month. I just received my pre-ordered copy this morning as I'm speaking, and that, my friends, is Lore Olympus Volume 2. I am so excited to continue on with Lore Olympus. The reason why I received it later than everyone is because I wanted the hardback. Every bookstore that I've gone to in the last few weeks only had the paperback, and I wanted my Volume 1 and Volume 2 to match. So I ordered this online, and it finally arrived at my doorstep today, and I am so pleased, so happy. Now I've got to read it. I'm so looking forward to this, and I know Camilo is as well, but what I do need to make sure of is that I read it before he does. I mean, it doesn't really matter, just as long as I get a chance to binge read it without him actually hogging up my volume. I cannot wait to continue on because I feel like Volume 1 really established the story between these two characters. However, I'm looking for a little bit more depth in terms of their relationship, and I'm hoping that Volume 2 provides that to us. I honestly cannot wait to continue on with the series and to let you guys know how I go. And Volume 3 is coming out in November, so honestly cannot wait just to continue on with Lore Olympus this year. And before I continue on with my current physical TBR, I will talk about an anticipated release that I'm very much looking forward to this month, if I can get my physical copy in on time. If not, I do have the audiobook, so fingers crossed I do get to it at some point. And that, my friends, is The King Will Kill You by Sarah Henning. This is the third and the final book in the Kingdom of Sand and Sky trilogy, which so far has become one of my favorite trilogies because, in my personal opinion, the first 2 books in the series were absolutely phenomenal. I honestly cannot wait to see what happens next, but I am very nervous about the finale because the finale could go either way. I understand that you don't want to make the finale too convenient. Also, I feel like these characters have gone through it, and I just want a good conclusion for them. Honestly, if it turns out tragically, I will be devastated because at this point, I feel like these characters have been put through so much pain, so much anguish, I just really cannot take it. So I'm hoping that this ends happily. And now I'm gonna go on to some fantasy books that I've been curious to try for quite some time that I just haven't really gotten to yet, but I've just been seeing them hyped up, and hopefully, maybe, I don't know, I can contribute to the hype once I read them. But at the end of the day, I kind of do want to read them because I do want to form some sort of opinion on them. That all being said, the next book that I have on my TBR is Together We Burn by Isabel Ibanez. I have heard people praise this book. I feel like this book has been a subscription service box for a few subscription services out there, so that's why a lot of people are reading it. And I mean, I've got a subscription service TBR myself. And speaking of, this is the Bookish Box Special Edition. I'm very much looking forward to reading it because I received it in the Bookish Box and everyone's talking about it, and I'm just absolutely obsessed with the packaging and all the stuff that they customized it with, especially this. I'm just like completely obsessed with it. However, I need to read it. I really need to get myself to read the books that come in my subscription services. I'm technically talking about the book that I'm talking about now, but also the next book that I'm going to bring up. I've heard good things about this book. I really don't know much else about it, except for the fact that it's a fantasy that includes dragons. So I am looking forward to another dragon fantasy. I hope that this one stands out amongst all the ones that I've read. And speaking of books that I received in monthly bookish subscription services, I have The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I received this in my May Fairyloot, and I feel like everybody else has read it and I haven't. I don't really know much about this story, but I'm very much looking forward to it. I've heard great things so far. In fact, I've also heard that this book is technically categorized as an adult book, but also caters to young adult readers. So that has definitely gotten me intrigued. I see this everywhere in my bookstore, but I never see it in the young adult section. And also, I really love this cover. I know I always talk about covers, but this one is absolutely pretty. I just love it with the purple. And I think I owe it to Fairyloot to at least give this a shot. So I'm very much looking forward to letting you guys know how I go with this series, or at least this first book. Apparently, this is the first in a trilogy, according to the spine here. Hopefully, this trilogy will be worthwhile, and I'll let you guys know sooner or later. It is quite ironic that the next book I bring up is also a purple book. I mean, it's purple pinkish, it's very pretty, but this is a book that I actually plan to reread, and it's either going to be reread like at the end of August or maybe sometime in September. I don't know, we'll see, but I have to reread it before I read the sequel, which comes out, I believe, in September or late August. And that, my friends, is Blood Like Magic by Lizelle Sambury. I actually clearly remember the story. However, I don't necessarily want to recap because I want to remember the story. I kind of want to recap to hype myself up for it, because Blood Like Magic was one of my favorite fantasy books of last year. It was so action-packed, so gripping, but also very grounded and centered around family. I just really enjoyed it. I think I really enjoyed the character-driven side of it. I mean, it does get plot-driven eventually. However, I loved the character-driven side of it, and I understand why people do give up because it is a chunky book that is very character-driven. However, it is so good. It is so worth it. It could kind of pull off to be a standalone. However, we need to know what happens next because there's just like one or two unresolved plot lines, and I'm just desperate to know what will happen and if everybody is going to be okay. Because as much as some people were okay at the end of this book, some people weren't. Including me. You know what? I'm probably gonna be even more not okay when I revisit this. But you know what? It's gonna be worth it. The second last book that I bring up on my August TBR today, book lovers, would be The Curse of the Wolf King by Tessandra Odette. This is the first book in the Entangled with Fae series. This is a series that is kind of like a companion series where none of the stories like fully connect. All of them follow a different couple in the world of the Fair Isle trilogy, which was one of my favorite trilogies of this year so far. So I feel a little bit less intimidated in terms of not having to stick it out throughout the whole series. However, this being said, I love binge reading series where we're following the same characters. And in this situation, we're not necessarily following the same characters every book. These are definitely very romantic driven fantasy stories because they follow a couple and how they kind of come together. I don't know whether the rest of the books make reference to the other books in the series, but what I do know is that they will make reference to the original Fair Isle trilogy. So I cannot wait to read this series, or at least read this first book and let you guys know how I go with it, because I've been looking forward to reading more by Tessandra Odette, as she has become one of my new favorite authors of the year. And the final book that I decided I wanted to allocate to my August TBR is This Woven Kingdom by Tahara Mafi. I've wanted to read this book for quite some time. However, my freight forwarder finally shipped my Bookish Box special edition here. I'm trying to hold it at an angle so you guys can fully see the beauty of this cover. Foiling, yeah, it's absolutely stunning. This is the alternative dust jacket, and I honestly love both covers. I don't know how to display it. Maybe I might just interchange sometimes. I've wanted to read this book ever since it first came out. However, I haven't really had the motivation because I haven't had a copy. And usually I do prioritize the books that I physically own on my TBR. It is finally here. That is motivation for me to finally buckle down and to get into it. I've heard nothing but great things about this book because this story is a fantasy inspired by Persian mythology. Honestly, that excites me so much because it seems very different from what Tahara Mafi has written before. I'm very much looking forward to trying new things from her, and honestly, I haven't heard a bad thing about this book yet. So I'm looking forward to giving it a try and to hopefully fall in love with this start to a new series, which I think is going to be a trilogy. I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay till the end of the video, leave me the pink love heart with the sparkles around it. That is one of my favorite emojis, so I would appreciate it if you left it. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers, and also I have social medias. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.